Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Louise Edington with Cosmic Owl Astrology. I am your Cyberpunk Priestess to the stars, and I just thought I was going to call it a Monday check-in, but then I realized it's Tuesday, and that's kind of what the energy's like. So today we are on Tuesday, the 20th. And the sun is entering Aquarius today. I did a week ahead forecast, and things are really heating up even more as we really enter the eclipse energy. Um, we have we had the Capricorn full moon where I did a whole video on that as well. That was on the 18th. I'm quickly going to show you a chart for something, though. I'm not going to make this really astrology heavy, but I just want to kind of demonstrate how all these energies show up everywhere. Not only do we see kind of this kind of crazy beyond the bounds energy politically, let's just put it that way, in the USA, um, and spreading out all over the world. And we did have all those out of bounds planets on the Cancer full moon back 2 weeks ago, just over 2 weeks ago, and it's been crazy, crazy intense since then. And I and other astrologers keep telling everybody that we have never experienced this before. We are not only at the end of some cycles, we're at the end of the Kali Yuga. I interviewed Bibhu Dev Misri for that, and in his book Yuga Shift, he talked about how many other cosmologies had the same kind of story, where we are at the end of a descending cycle, and then we are moving into a time of transition. And so, anyway, quick look at the astrology, because I really do not want to make this all or this aspect, this aspect. So I'm just going to show you big picture view. So at this time on January the 18th, because it was actually started anyway at 5:27 p.m. Universal Time, which is kind of London time, and it peaked at 6:09 p.m. So that is 1:09. So let me edit it for that actually. We had an X 1.9 solar flare, which is huge. It's a massive flare. Now we've had flares like this before, but this triggered strong R3 radio blackouts, and it hurled a massive coronal mass ejection towards the Earth. And last night it hit the Earth, and Stefan Burns can give you all the details on it. He was kind of doing a live stream as it hit the Earth. It sparked auroras in some places, but not everywhere. And so the aurora were not quite as big, at least here for us in the US, as that last event, whenever that was, but it's a bigger flare. And it was combined with some other things. And honestly, if you look at spaceweather.com, he explains these things way better than me. The KP planetary K index, or KP index, went up to 8.9, which is really severe. That's it was almost a 9.0, which is, that's a G5 storm, which is extremely severe. Okay. And so, that's it's going to cause kind of lots of energetics, lots of kind of weirdnesses. If you think about what a geomagnetic storm does, it's hurling kind of radiation down. It affects radio signals. It affects all kinds of things. It affects our energetics. I could not sleep last night. I've been awake since about 2 a.m. I tried to get back to sleep, just couldn't. I was just awake. So I just went for a really long walk. I didn't even feel like going boxing. I just felt like I needed to just be in the cool air on my own, walking. So, this is huge. Let me just quickly show you the KP index. Or K index, whatever they call it. I have you linked to this from spaceweather.com, by the way. I have been following it a little bit since, and this I think was when it peaked. So you can see this was on the 20th, and then it went down a bit and it went up a little bit again. This could happen a little bit for a while, and currently it's actually on its way down a little bit, because last time I looked to do this, it's down to 7.0, but that's still really strong. Now, uh, Stefan Burns gave all kinds of other, um, uh, links to kind of other measurements and this solar wind. He said the solar wind was at one point traveling at 1,000 miles an hour, and he was going like, whoa, that's huge, kind of thing. So yeah, like I say, this almost reached G5 category, just 0.1 away from it. And there's been several G4 episodes since the coronary mass ejection arrived at Earth. And he said it gathers kind of all this plasma and stuff along the way as it's hurling towards us. So this is bringing in some major energies. And yes, it causes auroras, but it's more than that. So the solar wind at the moment, apparently, is 909 kilometers per second. So that's, not miles, but still, this is just a major storm. He said the interplanetary magnetic field, you can see that here, is this, and you can look at that, and so you can see things peaking and things like that at the 19th. They're starting to drop down, but this one, I don't know what they all are, but Stefan Burns explains all that. I just know that this is a whopper. I'm just looking what else we've got. There's much else that I can understand at all. Stefan Burns also said there's a high possibility that there's another one, looking back at history, and he actually predicted this one about a year ago, not maybe to the day, but around this time. So this is massive, and I just want to have a little look at that astrology about when it peaked, and then I'm just going to talk to you about where we're at and how we're at this peak of change. So this is a less detailed, this is a bigger picture. This is I've heard, titles saying once in 14,000 years, but I think it's even longer than that, to be quite honest, because we didn't even know a lot of these things were, these planetary bodies existed back then. So I'm going to add the planetary south nodes. I'm not going to add loads, but I do think they are very major in all of this. I've taken out some of my other extras that I use, but if you remember, I did look on, I think it was on the new moon video, and we talked about it on Saturn. We talked about it with Kathy as well the other day. So the nodes of Saturn and Pluto are moving through Capricorn. They do bob back and forth a bit if we look at the geocentric nodes, which is what I've studied. But they're kind of involved as well. The south node, and this is the south node, this is kind of the leaving something behind kind of node in many ways. I had pointed out that the south node of Jupiter was also at 13 Capricorn, but that's where the Cancer full moon was back then. So I'll just leave Saturn and Pluto in, but I actually do want to look at Neptune too, I think. So, okay, because that's in Aquarius where we're going. So it's not really connected to too much yet, but there are other planetary nodes I'll probably look at over time as well, because we're in this huge time. I'm tempted to add Chiron as well. Sorry, I keep adding more, but there it is, near Chiron and Eris. So I'll take those two out again. But this here is this peak, big conflagration of energy in the astrology that is causing, adding to, whatever you want to call it, I don't know, the this extreme energy in the cosmos, because it's always as within, so without, as above, so below, as the universe, so the soul. That is the whole quote. I think we forget that sometimes. So I'm just going to add the ascending nodes of these two, which is the North Node. And so that's over here in Cancer, where Jupiter is. And Jupiter's been opposing all of this. Yes, the exact oppositions have passed. But look, all of this is forming this big cardinal T-square, looking at each other. A very disruptive, but also instigating massive change. And also, I'm going to suggest a massive raise in consciousness if we choose. If you think about all these energies coming in, if you're working with it, then your consciousness might go woof, expand from all of this. I've been downloading full of ideas despite wrangling several problems today, but also it's kind of tough for many people as well, especially if you have anxiety, things like that, or if you're losing your mind, So I actually had an interesting email this morning, and I'm going to tell you about it. I'm not going to name the person. But, I moved my email list. People who work like me, we have an email list. We send newsletters, things like that. I don't send many, but we do send them. Anyway, I moved them to a new platform, and it's beautiful. But I decided I was going to send out a nice email to people saying, hey, I understand if you don't, there's a time and a season kind of thing. If you don't want to be on my list anymore, that's fine. Just respond to this. Let me know, and you'll be removed. No harm, no foul kind of thing. Very, very nicely. Well, I had this email. I'm just going to read it to you. And she said, please get rid of my email address. By the way, she entered her email address. I don't add email addresses unless they've signed up for a course, a freebie, a class, my newsletter, whatever. Not interested and poorly impressed. God help the profession of astrology. That's the kind of crazy energy we've got going on right now. I'm not bothered. I looked her up online and she had 2 Instagram followers, no website. She claims to be a professional astrologer, and she was on this whole Quora thing, being really equally rude to everybody on that. So I'm just like, Anyway, but anyway, that's kind of the energy, and it's forceful. Mars and Mercury conjunct. Look at this. South Node of Saturn, forceful, pushy. Also, like, I'm the authority, I'm right. This person in their description or in the Quora thing, I can't remember what she said, but she was really upset that somebody was calling her in the Quora description former something or other. And she was just like going off. It was just, and this was a while ago, so she's obviously like that all the time. But this is the energy that's coming out. And we're seeing it out there, and it may be coming from within you too. I actually had to get a little bit forceful with somebody who I bought a service off because they were really not listening to me, and they were not providing the service that I had kind of been a bit pushed into taking. So, luckily I have my, I managed to tone my emails down a little bit, so it was not as rude as that person. But anyway, but Mars, Capricorn, forceful, Mercury, messenger, of the gods is often connected with these things, by the way. And we are heading towards a Mercury cazimi. And this, look at this, the peak of this flare where it shot this CME towards Earth was right before the full moon. So that was at 1:09 p.m. Eastern. And then we have the sun and moon conjunct. So 1:09 Eastern, and the sun and moon were conjunct at 2:51 p.m. So the flare was officially over by 1:51. So it was over by the full moon, but only an hour before. That, in the big cosmic scheme of things, is nothing. So before I stop sharing, I do want to point out that all of this energy in Capricorn, but then we bring it to today. It's moving now all into Aquarius. The sun has just moved into Aquarius. Happy birthday, Aquarians. Mercury is about to be cazimi. The sun, it's actually 32 minutes apart now. That's officially the cazimi is within 17 minutes, so we could go forward hours, and I will show you where this cazimi is in a minute. So 31, that's 26. Sorry, I'm just got to get a bit closer. 22, getting closer. So the actual cazimi begins, I'm just going to approximate it, so that's 18. That's a bit past it, but you know, early tomorrow, about 1 a.m. Eastern tomorrow, the official cazimi, but a lot of people count it as when the two are actually conjunct. So let me take you to the actual moment. 10:48 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow. Adjust for your time zones. You can still see though that Mars is now in Capricorn. Mars is at the degree of that new moon, by the way. And now the moon and the sun are more than 30 degrees apart, so energy is starting to heat up again after the new moon. Time to take action and look at this cazimi. But I do want to point out, I've set this for DC, and we can see the craziness going on, right? This is all happening in the 10th house of the most public visibility of the USA, or as it is at the moment. I'm not going to look at where it is in the USA's chart, because that's another layer to it. And so, you know, this is wild. And as this all happens, this is just again increasing the energy, because now the sun is waxing towards the first eclipse. So, you know, well, there's a full moon before that, but it's, you know, this is the lunar cycle before that solar eclipse on February the 17th. Okay, before that there is a full moon, and then I really am going to stop and share. I just want you to see all this kind of progression. So by the full moon on February the 1st, we've hardly got anything left in Capricorn. I'm going to take the planetary nodes out. Jupiter's moving away from those, so I'm going to take them all out. And we have another 13-degree full moon that is pretty much on the ascendant descendant when it happens in DC. And Mars is then moved into Aquarius. Mars and Pluto are both very dynamic, pushy energies. Okay, and Mars is about on the descendant of the USA chart for that moment. This is open enemies, a light, and in all this Aquarius. Look at this though. By the time of the full moon, Venus is moving away, Mercury is moving away, but they're all still under the beams of the sun. Mars, Venus, Mercury are still under the beams of the sun until the next eclipse. So that was, the detail was a bit more than I planned on giving, But this is for, I wanted to give some of it for those that understand the astrology or want to know it. I'll leave it at Uranus stations direct right after that as well. So we have a full moon with Uranus stationing direct at 2727, number of the Bodhisattva, and also 2 plus 7 is 9 endings. And 2 is the divine feminine, and 7 is a lovely spiritual number. So, this is just wild. It's wild astrology, wild energy, and that's even without adding all my extras. So really, I just wanted to come in and say, if you're feeling edgy, anxious, tired, wiped out, all the things, irritated, if you find yourself kind of snapping other people's heads off, or having your head snapped off, then it's not just you. This is so intense, and this solar storm is really adding to it. So, if you want more details about the solar storm, please go back to watch Stefan Burns. He live streamed last night. I'm sure he'll do more on it today. But he's definitely predicting another X-class flare soon. Okay, we have not had another one since, but he was also looking at his Quake feed. And so let me have a look at that, because I have an app for that too. He was showing it on the video because there was a bigger rise in quakes since then. Not huge, but there was a 5.3 in Japan not long, couple of hours ago. We've had a lot of little ones, but there was a 5.4 in Tanzania. Everything's kind of rocking and rolling. I haven't seen what Pele's doing. A 5.0 in Mexico, one in Carlsberg Ridge in California, I think that is as well. 4.9 in Vanuatu, Tonga 4.6. We're having 5.6 in Papua New Guinea, 5.9, sorry. This is since that flare. 4.4 in Greece, 5.2 in St. Helena, and 2 5.2s, it looks like. Yes, 2 5.2s, one after the other. 5.1 in Tonga. I'm only doing the bigger ones, by the way. 4.4 in Vanuatu, 5.3 in New Caledonia. I'm going back to the 18th. Night 4.5 in Alaska, 4.9 in Indio, California. There was one last night, actually, while he was live streaming. This is wild. 4.3 in Alaska, 4.7 New Guinea, 4.9 Timor-Leste, 4.3 Iran, 4.6 Russia, 4.7 Philippines, 5.3 Philippines, 4.9 Philippines, Mariana Islands, 4.9, 4.4 Fiji, 4.9 Solomon Islands, 4.5 Japan again. This app's literally called Quake, by the way. 4.4 Myanmar, 6.0 New Caledonia. That was early on the 19th. 5.0 in New Caledonia, 5.2 in China, 5.0 in Indonesia. Not even back to the 18th yet. I'm just going to go with the 5s, I think. Loads more 4s. 5.1 in Tonga, 5.6 Pakistan. I didn't realise there'd been that many. So I'm going back to the 18th, and I think I've covered all the really big ones, but that's a lot. That's more than we normally have. And he's been talking about how this energy really kind of can cause quakes too. And I've talked about it too. And, if you think about the energy of this cardinal energy, so much in Capricorn right now, so push, and it's earth energy and tectonic plates, and then Cancer, Jupiter in Cancer is water. So I don't know what's going on with water, but anyway, this is wild energy. And this is energy to really kind of like stay in your zone, do your self-care, drink stacks of water. But if you really kind of stay in your center and in your zone, you can, and stop getting distracted by dwelling on um, on things. And it's hard, believe me. I was dwelling on a certain matter this morning on my walk. Before I realized I had not put my music on for about, I'd walked about 3/4 of a mile, and I'm like, what am I doing? I need music to get me out of this. So I put Taylor Swift on to lift me up. But anyway, I just wanted to come in and say all of this is connected, all of it. And it's so big that it doesn't really matter if you have planets or angles exactly at those degrees. Everybody's going to be affected to a greater or lesser degree by this energy. And the solar storm is adding to it. We are still under it. But let me have a look at that K index now. Still at 7. I don't know how often they update it actually. So, every 3 hours they update it. So it looks like it's going to be updated fairly soon. But even so, you can go to spaceweather.com, and down on the left you can see the planetary K index. Okay, and it's wild. So stay safe, look after yourself, try and enjoy the ride. It's just there is so much potential in it, but it's not easy. Not easy. And I'm going to let this process and upload it and wish you all really well. And I'm going to get back to something that I meant to start earlier today and I didn't get around to because I was having to deal with other things. So I'm going to go and try and turn off apps and things and focus on it for now. Much love.